And joining us right now is Jeff Rubin from Terra Firma Realty. He's a specialist in helping people in distressed situations, explaining their options, and also teaching them how to recover from those situations. So Jeff, thanks so much for joining us today. Take a moment, tell people what you do and how long you've been doing it.
Well, at Terra Firma Realty Group, we have been helping homeowners in the down economy basically solve their problems with their mortgages doing short sales. I have about 13 years experience. The last 4 or 5 we've been specializing, like I said, dealing with the banks and dealing with underwater mortgages. And we've had a lot of success helping people move on from bad situations.
Yeah, I think most people don't realize, they think that the worst times are behind us, and I'm sure they are, but that there's still a lot of people find themselves where they owe more than what the house is worth, and they may still be behind in their mortgage. And you thought all those problems were dealt with, but there's still a lot of people out there still dealing with these situations, right?
Yeah, there's quite a few people that do still need that assistance. They're either underwater in their mortgages, or they're still struggling to make their payments.
Right.
There's quite a few of those. In light of the recent changes in the state with foreclosure law speeding the processes up, a lot of people are realizing that they do need to come up with a solution, whether it's a modification or other types of solutions.
So I know what you're saying, because there were a lot of people that thought they had a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because it was taking so long to get things pushed through the process in the courts. But you explained to me that there's sort of a fast track now where it's coming up on people and they have to make some pretty important decisions. Right. So tell me what. I haven't made a mortgage payment in a while. I have. I'm just using this as an example. I haven't made a mortgage payment for a while. I may owe still more than my house is worth, although the values have come up. And now I start getting those notices from the bank or from the court. Let's talk about what kind of options I have.
Okay, well, the first thing is, when you know that you're having issues, a lot of people will reach out to their lender. And the lender is supposed to explain to you that there's programs out there. Now, not all lenders do that. So it's really important that people understand their rights.
Right.
They need to consult if they're thinking about doing a modification or a short sale or some type of workout solution. It's important for them to consult some professionals, whether it's a foreclosure defense attorney or a real estate broker such as Terra Firma Realty Group, where we're certified distressed property experts.
Right.
And what they can do at that point is figure out if they could modify their loan to stay in it, and that really is going to be a function of what their income is, just like getting a regular mortgage again. The bank's going to want to know what your hardship is, and it has to be a legitimate one, not just I don't want to pay because I'm upside down in my mortgage.
Right.
And then, of course, if you can't stay in your house, then you have to look at other solutions. And those other solutions are short sale, a deed in lieu of foreclosure, or not doing anything, which is the worst solution, and that's a foreclosure.
Right, and I mean, we've both seen it, where people sort of hang their hat on the idea of modifying. Reality check. Most people that have been through the modification process, there's a small percentage that have been successful and come out the other side making payments on a mortgage and starting everything fresh. So let's put modification for a second aside, and now you're looking at someone who's behind and they've gotten a letter from the bank and it looks like they're going to be foreclosed on. So I know your advice is don't let that happen. So
correct.
Why? Well, what are the options, and why shouldn't I just let that happen and stay as long as I can and then move on?
We have a lot of people who come to us and say, well, I'm just going to leave the keys and you know, call the bank and tell them to come take the house. It doesn't work like that. They still have to go through the process, the legal process of taking the house back, if you're not just going to sign it over to them.
Right.
Okay? But it's not going to relieve you of your debt. It's not going to relieve you of your obligation. They still have a right to come after you for what they call the deficiency, and that deficiency is whatever they sell the property for and what you owe. So that could be $10,000, $20,000, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, and that is going to be lingering out there. That possible lawsuit against you and you really aren't going to have much of a defense because you really just gave up and gave everything back.
Right. So if your reasoning now is, well, I don't have anything anyway, so who cares if they come after me? People need to know that in Florida, those judgments are good for 10 years and can be renewed for another 10 years.
Yeah.
So just because things change,
right?
Just because today you might be throwing your hands up saying, well, it doesn't matter.
Right.
The day will come where it will matter, right? And that's what you're trying to protect people from.
Right. And because a lot of people do say, well, I don't care, I'm not going to buy another house now. And then 2 years down the road, they're going to be like, oh man, I'm things are better. I've got a new job. I'm making good money again. I'm building my credit. Maybe I want to buy a house. And then all of a sudden, when they start looking at it, oh well, you had a judgment. Oh, you had a deficiency. You're not going to be able to just go and get a mortgage. So
I could have listened to Jeff.
Yes, exactly. So you really need to have a plan.
Right.
And the plan is, okay, we're in this situation, but there's a way out. It's not the best situation when you're faced with those decisions.
Right.
But as I tell people, okay, in the situation they're in, it's a crappy situation you're in. But out of all the crappy solutions that you have, the least crappiest is a short sale. And the short sale, the reason is that, number one, most of the time, and it's not all the time, but most of the time, you'll be relieved of your debt completely. And then also, there's programs out there now that will actually give you money to move. The HAFA program, which is a federally sponsored program, will give you up to $3,000 in moving expenses if it's your primary residence. So that also alleviates some problems for people if they're really hard pressed and they need that cash to move. That's how you get it. You don't get it by just letting everything go.
Right. So they're able to sell the house and just. I know we've been talking about it a lot of years, but for people who don't know exactly what a short sale is, it means that the lender is agreeing to accept less than what you owe and allowing you to go ahead and sell the house to somebody else.
Correct.
And we know nowadays that normally in Florida, if you let that happen on your first mortgage, on your primary residence, you're probably going to get to walk away with the bank relinquishing their right to pursue a deficiency judgment,
Correct.
which is what we're trying to avoid in that foreclosure situation, right? So you've got a buyer who gets a good deal on the house. You've got the seller who's able to walk away. You say, if you get a check and walk away, now you've got maybe first, last, and security because you're going to become a renter at this point for some period of time, right? Right.
And that's when you start to establish your credit again. And one thing I would like to point out for people who are struggling, who may be thinking about doing this, if they can afford to, and there's quite a few people who can afford to, they need to make sure that they're maintaining the rest of their credit.
Right.
Okay, and there's a reason for that. You want to maintain the rest of your credit, and then when you finally do move into your new residence, an apartment, a condo, a house, whatever it might be that you're renting, you want to make sure that you're making those rent payments, and you start reestablishing your credit. But why would we do that? Because, believe it or not, even with a short sale or a foreclosure or even a deed in lieu, the time frames have shrunk now that people can get another mortgage after a period of time where they've been able to show that they're responsible, or they've had a life event that was something that was out of their control, like a loss of a job, or compounded with an illness, or those types of things. And people can actually get loans. We're working on right now where people had to give up their house. It was a deed in lieu of foreclosure, but they were responsible with everything else. They worked hard to reestablish everything, and now they're in the process, hopefully within the next 30 days, of closing on a brand new house.
And I don't want, there's something you said I don't want to go over lightly, and that's about keeping the rest of your credit current, because there's something brand new in the news. There was supposed to be a change in the USDA guidelines for Martin County. So for people who live in Martin County, if you keep your other credit current and the only thing that goes bad is your mortgage on a short sale, there is no waiting period. You can, if you qualify for USDA, you can buy right away, in some cases with no money down.
Right.
So I can't say that's going to go on to forever, but it was supposed to end and now it's been extended. So that's what you said about keeping your other credit good, even if you're behind on your mortgage, can be really important because you can be a homeowner right away
Right.
without even coming up with a down payment. I know that's a market that you work in.
Yes.
So that's a really, really, really important fact. You had a website where people can go if they're looking for more help just in that topic, though, right? For if they're in foreclosure.
Yes. There's a website where they can go, and you just have to fill in some very basic information, and they'll get a report that it sort of goes through all of the alternatives that you have step by step. It's called freeforeclosurereportnow.com. Freeforeclosurereportnow. Don't forget the now.com.
Right now.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's switch gears a little bit. Someone has come to you, they did listen to you, and they didn't let their house go to foreclosure, they didn't throw the keys away, they didn't do a deed in lieu, they had you list their house, it was sold as a short sale. Let's assume they kept their other credit okay, maybe not stellar, but they kept it okay. And all is said and done now, and now you found them a place to live, to rent for a time being. Now they look into the future. What are the things that are important to that person to get back into the market?
Well, again, it's important that they pay their rent on time, that they pay their credit cards on time, if they have auto loans or other types of credit, that they're maintaining those. It's very, very important to make those payments in a timely fashion, not late, and even if they think they're going to be late, they really need to figure out a way to make those payments. And the longer and more consistent approach that they have with that, they'll be surprised how quickly their credit will start to get reestablished. And then along with that, there are different programs out there, FHA, like you mentioned, USDA, and the time frames used to be, I believe with FHA, it was as much as 3 years at one point.
Yeah, depending on how much you're going to put down.
Right.
You know, it used to be it would take 2 years in most cases for conventional FHA, but now we know it's shorter. But the point I think that people really need to know is don't throw your hands up and say, I give up, I've ruined everything.
Right.
Because nowadays you haven't ruined everything, and there's a way to get back into the market if you plan ahead.
Right.
So what we want people to know is it's one thing to know when your waiting period is. That just means you can apply at that date.
Right.
If you plan ahead and talk to some professionals 6 months ahead of time, that won't be the end of your waiting period. That may be the day you can apply and get approved and move into a new house. So.
Right. Well, what we had mentioned earlier is you have to have a game plan. You know, sit down, take a breath, and realize it's not the end of the world. Take your head out of the sand, okay, and realize that there's life beyond the house that you're in that you're struggling with. And when it's gone, okay, it won't seem as important as it does now. And then we do have a website, and it's called How to Own Again, and then the letters TNF.com, howtownagaintf.com, which will give you a roadmap and give you some other information so you can figure out and start planning now. Don't wait, and we can help you at Terra Firma Realty Group.
That's unbelievable advice. And Jeff, take a minute to tell people how they can reach you personally if they have more questions about this or are buying and selling today.
Certainly. They can reach me directly at 772-528-9498. That's my cell. Or they can reach me at jeff@tfrealtygroup.com.
Thanks so much for coming in today. Great.